Hello everyone and welcome to the Inspire Educator Workshop Series. I'm Jason Latimer and I'm excited to be your moderator and host for this STEM-focused virtual conference. Today our series is about inspiring and equipping teachers with innovative ideas to use for STEM-focused events in the classroom. And today is day one of a two-day series provided by the USA Science and Engineering Festival. The mission of the USA Science and Engineering Festival is to inspire the next generation to pursue careers in STEM, and you can check out their free programs for events for teachers and students at the usasciencefestival.org. Now let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Jason Latimer, world champion of magic, who spent his entire life studying applied science to be the best magician I could possibly be. And now I'm using my background in magic to inspire kids to ask questions on impossible science, which is why we're on the set right now, because we're all working together to inspire curiosity in STEM education. So let me show you a little bit of what I do.
So turn it up, yeah, we're gonna celebrate.
Hey guys, it's Jason Latimer, the world champion of magic, coming to you directly from my home. And together, we'll explore the impossible.
Yeah, we're gonna celebrate.
Bingo!
How the heck did you do that?
That's
very cool.
Oh, that's science!
Yeah, we're gonna celebrate.
Stay curious, because the right question changes everything. Welcome to Impossible Science. Now I want to give a huge thank you to our presenting partners, AstraZeneca, the Science Channel, and the U.S. Department of Defense DoD STEM for making this educator series possible. We'll be hearing from each of these organizations throughout the series. For those of you who know me, know I'm fascinated by the concept of wonder. And if you've ever been interested in inspiring kids to have that type of curiosity and wonder in STEM education, especially for mathematics and physics, those can be extremely intimidating to students. But have you tried different concepts, like tools like music, or a different way to present math? Well, today we're going to actually hear from professional educators that are inspiring their kids to ask questions with a different approach to STEM education. Like myself. Like, I'm always interested in showing people how to see beyond the illusion of knowledge. Like this box. Inside this box is another box. No, just kidding. By pulling that box out of the inside of this box, we feel that we know the answer, that the relationship between this box and this box is that it's smaller. You feel that you automatically know the answer. The illusion of knowledge is very strong with us because we've always pulled smaller items out of bigger items, which is why it looks so odd that the black box can fit inside the green box. Now this is not a magic trick, this is a mathematical principle that happens no matter what you do. The boxes are the exact same size, they're just in different orientations. But had you not known that, you would have been comfortable with the words, it's smaller, I already know the answer, I don't need to learn anymore. But now you're curious and you want to ask questions, which is exactly what our next educator is doing. But before we go into today's workshop, I'm pleased to welcome Dr. Joe Sanchez from AstraZeneca to kick off today's program.
AstraZeneca, Learning Undefeated, and Discovery Education have partnered to create Generation Health, how science powers us.
Working with Discovery Education has been incredibly powerful for AstraZeneca because it allows us to reach many students across the country and inspire them to perhaps pursue a career in STEM.
A dynamic, hands-on, standards-aligned educational initiative engaging students to learn about the science behind their own health through the lens of STEM.
In order to support and sustain the growth of the health industry, the quality of care, we must invest in the next generation.
Reaching over 1 million students in its first 2 years, Generation Health takes students inside the health industry.
Bringing those young people closer to our scientists and engineers, closer to our industry, and closer to our company to stimulate their thinking and perhaps inspire them to get on the path to a biopharmaceutical career.
HowSciencePowersUs.com provides a broad range of educational resources, not only to students, but to educators and parents.
Welcome to the AstraZeneca campus in Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Like the AstraZeneca virtual field trip, taking students inside cutting-edge labs where groundbreaking biologics are researched and developed to save lives. Meeting the scientists and learning the stories behind their STEM careers. And having fun along the way.
We engage through storytelling. We need students to be exposed to ideas so that they become fascinated and want to know more.
Generation Health sparks students' curiosity with ready-to-use STEM bundles, each comprised of a lesson and illustrated video that dive deep into the science of the health industry, exploring topics like oncology, redefining cancer treatment to one day eliminate cancer as a cause of death, and respiratory, highlighting the fight to treat asthma. Plus, even more resources like Learning Undefeated, who's bringing hands-on STEM education right to the school parking lot with Drop Anywhere Labs, custom outfitted STEM learning spaces built from modified shipping containers.
So it's not enough to just describe what we do, we also have to expose them.
Generation Health, inspiring the next generation of scientists by learning how science powers us.
Working with Discovery Education has been incredible for Generation Health because it allows us to have a farther reach and a virtual reach across the planet Earth to inspire and engage young people at all ages.
Thank you so much, Joe. Now, to start off today's session, we're going to talk about mathematics. Now, mathematics is a pretty intimidating subject for a lot of students. Now, we're about to hear from two educators that are doing some really innovative work to build up math confidence in the classroom. Now, if you're not a math teacher, stick around anyway, because these concepts can be applied in the classroom across various subjects. Today's presenters include Taren Long, a mathematics teacher who's using her abilities to strengthen and empower students with their number sense, and LaMar Queen, Mr. QUE, who's using his music to excite and empower learners. Now, we expect there to be a lot of questions, so if you have any questions during today's session, make sure you ask them at usasciencefestival.org/Q&A. I'm so excited to welcome our first presenter, Taren Long. Taren is a middle school math teacher for the Chesapeake Public Charter School in Lexington Park, Maryland. Taren also represents the nonprofit organization MATHCOUNTS as a distinguished DoD STEM Ambassador for the U.S. Department of Defense. So I hope you're ready to hear about Taren Long's strategies of how to empower math confidence in the classroom. Please welcome Taren Long.
Thank you so much, Jason. As he said, my name is Taren Long, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about taking risks for mathematical rewards. So a little bit about me. I'm a middle school math teacher. I also am a mentor teacher, a MATHCOUNTS coach, and this year I'm working with the Department of Defense as a STEM ambassador to help bring STEM education to more classrooms and more teachers and more students. I'm also national board certified, and I have a Twitter that is not very active yet. So getting on with it. One of the goals in my classroom, one of the very important goals, is for me that students are willing and able to take risks. So what does it mean for that to happen? Well, it means that students have to be willing. They have to be in an environment where they feel comfortable answering open-ended questions, asking questions, finding solution paths, and not just playing guess what's in my head. That they are willing to take that risk and answer questions on their own. Then that they're able to take those risks. So having students that want to participate is great, but that they're able to take the risks means I have to make sure that there are entry points into every task I give. So no matter what background knowledge that students come in with, no matter what cultural heritage they have, they are able to jump into the lesson, they know what's going on, and they can participate in that activity. So how do I do this? Well, I have a lot of different things that I try to use in my instruction, but some of the big ones are I try to use visual patterns and estimation 180 tasks in order to get students to have a hook. First thing, they are able to participate. It doesn't matter if they were absent the day before, if they didn't understand the content yesterday, this is kind of a fresh start and students can all be engaged in this. And then another thing I use either for warm-ups or for an entire lesson is a 3-act math task. And I try to incorporate a lot of the strategies from visual patterns and estimations 180s into these as I go. So one of the tasks that I might use from visualpatterns.org, which is Fawn Nguyen's page, and she has over 400 of these. There's linear, quadratic, and exponential patterns. So one of the ones I might use of her task is this one with the trees. I like this one because it is a linear pattern, but visually it's a lot more interesting than just saying you have a sequence of numbers 3, 5, 7. What's the rule? So I ask the students, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And I'll show a short clip of what my students notice and wonder when they see this task. Go ahead, what do you notice?
There's 3 groups of 3 trees and 3 groups of 2 trees.
3 groups of 3 trees and 3 groups of 2 trees. All right, Ryan, what do you notice?
As it gets more trees, it goes up by 2 every time.
Gets more trees, goes up by 2 every time. Gwen, what do you notice?
I said the bottom 3 all have 3 trees.
The bottom ones all have 3 trees? Absolutely. Alyssa, what do you notice?
It's a bunch of trees stacked on top of each other.
A bunch of trees stacked on top of each other, yes. Rachel, what do you notice?
The trees are green, absolutely! Bella, what do you notice?
It's organized in columns and rows.
Say that again?
It's organized in columns and rows.
You can look at it as organized in columns and rows. What do you notice?
The equation is 2x plus 3.
There's an equation. It's 2x plus 3. Oh, man, I like it. Sounds cool. Let's find out more. That was mine.
So one of the pieces that the students pick up on here is that it's not just that we're adding 2 trees. It might be that we're adding a row of 2 trees. It might be that we're adding a certain number of columns. It might be that the shape is changing into a rectangle and the rectangle is getting longer. So you get students to make a lot more observations about how shape changes and how numbers change. You can also add in, and Fawn Nguyen has this on the webpage, what pattern number it is out of her 400 and some odd patterns, and how many of that object, how many trees would be in step 43. So if that was step 1, step 2, and step 3, how many would be in step 43? And that can help you with making predictions out for functions as well. I don't always use it. Sometimes I take that off, just remove all the numbers and just give them that open-ended, what do you notice, what do you wonder with those pictures. An example of an estimation 180 task that I use is the how many marshmallows are in the glass, or how many mallows are in this glass. And I like this one because they give you 2 different pictures, so you can really get an idea of the shape of this glass, and the students can make really good predictions. So I'll show a short clip of what my students said when they were guessing this task about marshmallows.
What is something reasonable to say is too low? Kara, what's reasonable for you? What was that? 15. So we had 10, we had 13, we had 15. What do you think is too low? 20 is too low. All right, how are you guys coming up with these numbers? Because I haven't really looked at this picture too much yet. Kara, you want to share?
Just you can tell how many is going to be in there. 7 and 15. It's more than 20.
Okay, so you're saying you can look at it, you can say this is not 15, this is more than that.
There's even ones in the middle.
Because there's ones in the middle as well. Matt, what do you think? So the real answer you think is 37? Okay, so let's shift that. So our reasonable guesses for too low are around 15. Maddie's first guess for what's a reasonable guess is 37. What do you guys think? What do the rest of us think? Maddie, what do you think is a reasonable guess? 36? 42? Okay, what do you think? 37? What do you think? 30 to 35, somewhere in there. What is prompting these guesses? I know Maddie gave us 1, and a lot of us are saying numbers near there. So what made us all think that same thing? Mandy, you want to share? You counted? So tell me what you counted on this first picture. How did you count them? So I like that you took what you saw at the top and said there's probably another layer just like this beneath, even though you couldn't see that one.
One of the nice things that Estimation 180 does is they have some different worksheets you can use to print out to help guide your students' thinking, at least at first. So they have a structure of a lower limit and an upper limit, and then allowing the students to come up with a nice guess in between. So individually, students can have what they think is too low to be reasonable and what they think is too high to be reasonable. But then they can also listen to what their peers have to say and come up with a class estimate. So my students do this a lot, and we use that to kind of narrow it down and say, okay, but you know, if you said 5 was unreasonable, is 6 reasonable? And then we start working closer and closer until we have very good estimates. The first few times, absolutely, I get responses like -7. Okay, so then I ask them, well, is -6 reasonable? And they're usually like, no. Like, okay, so can we say -6 is too low? And try to guide them towards something a little bit more of a reasonable estimate. But as students gain confidence in that sort of task, they're going to make better estimates. Right, so when they make those silly guesses like 2 million, it's because they're not confident in how to make a good estimate, which is all the more reason to do an activity like this. The 3-act math tasks, I think, are fantastic. They are built on the structure of Act 1 being something that engages and excites students, usually a video or a photo, just something visual to hook them in. You're not even giving them a question, right? You're just showing them something. Asking them, okay, for me, it's often, what do you notice? What do you wonder? And working them towards how can we use math to answer some of these wonders? Act 2 is seeking information and solutions. And one of the key pieces here is getting students to figure out what information they need to continue solving this problem. So you don't want to tell them, here's a cool video, here's all the numbers that go with that video, and now you solve it, right? Because then they're just plugging in something. You want students to be asking you, well, how tall is that glass? How wide is that glass, right, if you're answering the marshmallow task? And then when they ask you those questions and they have a purpose for using that information, then you can give them that information. Act 3 is where you reveal and you discuss the answer and extend it. And what I love about these is because these are real world videos and real world tasks, you're not seeing just the number plugged into the equation and it's solved out. Sometimes the answer they get in the real world doesn't quite match what you would expect it to get, even if you did all your math right. So you have this little variation and this great topic for discussion and this great extension of the students had plenty of other wonders that you did not address. So how can they address those? What information could they ask to get that question answered? How could they learn more if they repeated this task or did it a different way? So for this, I picked a 3-act math task on candle burning. And I picked it because to me, it's not especially interesting. It's a 1-minute video clip of a candle burning. And I asked my students to write down things they noticed and things they wondered. And they took about 5 minutes to do this. Then I play the video again, just to really encourage them, like write down things that you notice, things that you wonder. Then we shared out. And I shared out probably a little bit too long in this case. I wanted students to really feel like they could have buy-in to this task. So some of their wonders were a little very off topic, but you can rein that in. And there's a couple of ways to do that. One, you can have students share with each other first, and then you can ask them to decide which of the wonders do you think is unique to your group? Which one do you think is the most interesting? Which one can we use math to answer? So you can have a couple guiding questions and then use that to get the wonders from the class instead of just asking them to make an exhaustive list. So I'll show you what happened with my class. I did have them make a pretty big list of all of their wonders. And part of that was when I walked around, most students only had 1 or 2 wonders on their actual paper. I was like, I know they're wondering more. They just need to hear questions from their friends to be encouraged to participate, to say, oh, okay, like I can share this wonder. It is interesting enough. This is a good question. When I gave this task and my students recorded their own notice and wonders, some of them had these really great questions. You know, how long did it take to melt? Why were there time skips in the video? And I thought these were fantastic. And it was so hard not to just say, yes, great question, and really let all of the students kind of chime in and participate and feel engaged. In this work sample, you know, they said, well, what does this have to do with math? But what I really enjoyed was later on the same worksheet, before they even got to the sharing part, they knew, because they said, are we going to graph it? And so when the students brought that up in class and they said, well, are we going to graph it? And that was their wonder. And I said, could we? What could we graph? And that became a really interesting course of discussion because on the one hand, they were like, I don't really want to. But on the other hand, like they knew they could and it would give them more information. So we were able to use all those wonders and come up with well, what can we use math to answer? Okay, we can graph the data we have. What is that going to show us? And then graphing that and looking at it. Now, Act 2 and 3 of this task, Act 2 shows the measurements of the candle. So when you play that, it plays this part of the clip, not the whole candle melting, about 38 seconds worth, but it shows like the actual measurements. So students can graph their data. Students can look at how that goes down over time. And students can make predictions for how long it's going to take until it ends. That gives them enough information in order to make a prediction. And then we can watch the full video Act 3, which shows them how long the candle actually took to burn. And I had so many students asking me after this test, like, okay, but was that a scented candle? I'm sorry, I don't know. Like, should we try this experiment with scented candles? And so many students who were asking to try it and compare some results and see if they could change the length of time it would take to melt. And even though some students were like, that's more science, it was incredibly engaging for them. And they really wanted to learn more about how these candles melted. Which I sincerely believe that if I had opened up with, you know, a worksheet with a data table on it and just said, here's some data of a candle's height over time, draw a line of best fit and make a prediction for when it's going to be melted, it would have been incredibly boring. But we had an entire hour-long discussion of watching these videos and what could we do with the data and plotting this data and taking it to those next steps because the students bought in. They saw that hook. There wasn't any numbers. There wasn't any big question. They just were kind of interested. They're like, this is kind of interesting. I want to learn more about it. To wrap up, I call this presentation Taking Risks for Mathematical Rewards, both for the students and for the teacher. This is about the teacher taking the risk of moving away from a standard worksheet with a word problem with the numbers that you can just highlight and plug in and chug, moving away from that and moving to an environment that you are willing to take, where you can have your students also be willing to take risks, right? Take risks to engage with a task, even when there's no question being asked yet. Even when it's just some interesting thing happening or not very interesting thing happening. And what rewards that's going to give you, that all of your students are able to be participating and engaged, that they're going to become much better at estimating, at predicting, at being willing to make those guesses. It is going to pay off. You just have to be willing to take the risk.
As we heard, Taren is an ambassador for the DoD STEM's Defense STEM Education Consortium, or DSEC. DoD STEM is currently seeking passionate STEM educators to participate as ambassadors for the 2021-2022 school year. Here is current DoD Ambassador Mr. Jonte Lee to share some of the information for this amazing opportunity for educators.
Thank you, Jason. Hello, future teacher ambassadors. I am Jonte Lee, and you are about to hear about a program I have been thrilled to be a part of this school year as a Department of Defense STEM Ambassador. There are so many things I want you to know about this program. But for now, I'll just share how invigorating it has been to meet and develop curricula with teachers from across the country who focus on many different areas of STEM learning. This transdisciplinary learning approach has been a game changer. Teachers have been told for years to incorporate tech into their lessons, but tech is this generic term. We throw it around. What does it really mean? The opportunity to collaborate with other STEM teachers around the country with support from DoD STEM is unique and has already been incredibly helpful. I love being a thought partner with other educators. For example, I realized that showing students the interconnectedness of the different parts of STEM is just as important as focusing on one area, such as chemistry or biology. The history of video games is the history of technology and the history of engineering. If you pay attention to it in this way, you are developing skills in critical thought and evaluation. If you are a K-12 educator in the United States and have a history of sharing your passion for STEM literacy with underrepresented or military-connected students, I encourage you to apply to participate as an ambassador for the upcoming school year. Applicants who are recognized with DoD STEM Ambassador Award will partner with the USA Science and Engineering Festival and DSAC, the Defense Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Education Consortium, to advance STEM outreach during the 2021 to 2022 school year. Ambassadors will receive funding in the form of an educator stipend, funds for the classroom and materials, and funds for educator conferences or professional development attendance. Applications must be received by June 9th. And for some additional information about DoD STEM, let's take a look at this short video. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to submit your application to be a future teacher ambassador by June 9th. Bye-bye, everybody.
Now, before we begin the second workshop for today, I want to cover the USA Science and Engineering Festival media campaign, Spark of STEM. Spark of STEM is meant to ignite STEM inspiration by showcasing awesome tips, activities, and fun created by teachers, students, and STEM influencers. The campaign shares weekly videos, photos, and other resources that will spark your attention. Follow along and learn more about these amazing content creators that are passionate about STEM, like Mrs. BTV.
Hi everyone, I'm Nancy Bullard, aka Miss B, and I'm the K-5 science lab teacher at Huntington Farms Elementary School in Charlotte, North Carolina. My job as a science lab teacher gives me the opportunity to teach science to every student in my school building. During the school year, this science lab is buzzing with excitement. Children come in, put on their tiny little lab coats and their safety glasses, and we get down and dirty doing hands-on science. As you know, research shows that science is best taught through an inquiry approach, and that's what I aim to do every day in this classroom. When COVID-19 closed schools in March 2020, I was suddenly unable to do hands-on science with my students. My attendance rates dropped drastically, and I noticed students were spending hours a day on social media, but not showing up for my virtual science lessons. Like every teacher, I had to adapt. I launched Miss B TV on TikTok and Instagram on March 25th of 2020, and I started posting simple science experiments that students could do from home. My hope was that in the midst of their scrolling, I would pop up on their phones and they would stop, learn something new, and then come to class the next day to tell me that they had seen me on TikTok. And it worked. By the end of the school year, I had 1,000 followers, and less than 6 months later, I reached 1 million followers. Today, Miss B TV teaches 2.5 million people around the world. One of the reasons my videos have resonated with so many people is because of their simplicity. I keep my experiments short and sweet. I use very basic materials, and I try to talk using kid-friendly language. My videos also help my audience learn in a visual way. For example, convection is a pretty complex topic for a 6-year-old, but kids are mesmerized by this convection tank experiment. Check this out. Room temperature water, hot water with red food coloring, ice cubes with blue food coloring. When I put these ice cubes in, the water starts to sink down. This cold water starts to sink. Now watch what happens when I put the red warm water on the other side. See how the red warm water immediately starts to rise. We've created a convection tank. These cold, more dense molecules sink down, and the warm molecules are less dense and rise. The properties of gases is another tricky concept to teach, but my underwater candle and paper towel trick videos help students understand these properties. I'm gonna put this candle completely underwater, but it's not gonna go out. Watch. This is possible thanks to air. The air in the cup takes up space and protects the candle from getting wet. However, if you hold it underwater for too long, it loses its oxygen supply and burns out. Remember this? Put a paper towel in a cup, turn it upside down, and put it completely underwater. Since the air in the cup takes up space, it keeps the water from coming inside, so your paper towel stays completely dry. If you're watching this right now, this is your sign to start doing more hands-on science in your classroom. Thanks so much to the USA Science and Engineering Festival for having me, and be sure to follow them for more Spark of STEM. Finally, to all the teachers out there, you are incredible. You survived a pandemic. With very little notice, you completely adapted the way you do your job. You balanced hybrid teaching. You dealt with ever-changing school board decisions. Most importantly, you continued to show up for your students during this unprecedented school year. Thank you for all you do. I am humbled and honored to be in a profession with such selfless and hardworking people, and I'll see you around the universe. Bye.
Thank you, Mrs. BTV, for that engaging message. Now, if you have any questions, make sure you ask them at the usasciencefestival.org/Q&A. Now, for our final workshop for today, Mr. LaMar Queen, or also known as Mr. QUE. Mr. QUE taught middle school math in South Central Los Angeles before founding Music Notes. Music Notes aims to increase student engagement by providing high-quality music and videos to educators and their students. Let's take a close look at this innovative educator and how they're using music in the classroom. Please welcome Mr. QUE.
Thank you, Jason. I'm always excited to share my work, the experiences I've had using music in the classroom, especially at amazing events like this. Let's go ahead and jump right into our objectives. I'd like to share with you all an introduction to my team, the work we do, why we do it, why we're so passionate about it. I also want to discuss why music is effective. We'll talk about how to use music and hip hop with your students. Everyone will leave here with some strategies that you can incorporate ASAP in your classrooms with your young people. And for those that already use music in the classroom, hopefully this will encourage you to go a little harder. For anyone that hasn't used music yet, you may be on the fence wondering if it really works or how to do it. We're hoping you have a mindset shift once this is all said and done. Now, remember to keep those expectations in place when you begin this. I made a mistake early on, thinking I could just play some music, do some songs, and everything will be A-okay, but things can get out of control if you don't keep your standard practice in place. So don't forget that. And now I'd like to go ahead and get things started with a video. Does anyone remember this? If you do, go ahead and sing along.
Conjunction, junction, what's your function?
Hooking up words and phrases and clauses.
Conjunction, junction, how's that function?
I got 3 favorite cars that get most of my job done.
Conjunction, junction, what's their function?
I got and, but, and, or. They'll get you pretty far.
Now, I like to say we didn't reinvent the wheel. We just put the shiny chrome wheel on it. Schoolhouse Rock revolutionized education, and we're just following in their footsteps. Here's one of our math songs about math reasoning. Every math student needs to do this. I said when I do a problem, I gotta do more than just solve it. Does my answer make sense? Does my answer make sense? Yep, I said when I do a problem, I gotta do more than just solve it. Does my answer make sense? Hey, does my answer make sense? Check it, I am a mathematician. When I do my work, you know I'm on a mission. I do a problem, hey, then I check my work. Does my answer make sense? Is it reasonable? That's the question that I ask every time I do math. I never do a problem and move to the next without asking myself, does it make sense? I can explain to a partner too. When you finish your work, that's what you're supposed to do. Yep, I cannot quit. And when it comes to math, I'll never be content. Yep. I am it, and I always make sure my answers make sense. When you work with numbers that are compatible, that's how you know your answer is reasonable. I said when I do a problem, I gotta do more than just solve it. Does my answer make sense? Does my answer make sense? I said when I do a problem, I gotta do more than just solve it. Does my answer make sense? Does my answer make sense? That's right, you all. This is one of my favorite math songs, but what I want to do now is just show you how we got started. And in this video, you're going to see the very first song I ever wrote. So let's go ahead and check it out.
Seeing kids running up and hugging and screaming their heads off and getting excited about these guys that are rapping about school, doing your homework, getting good grades, like that still blows my mind.
Literally 2 weeks into my career, man, my students started calling me boring. They said that if I didn't rap for them, they were not gonna listen. And they had like a few reasons why they wanted me to rap. They said, 1, you're boring. 2, you look like Kanye West. I said, stop, I look better than Kanye, all right? And then 3, you know, we're not gonna listen to you unless you rap. So after a few weeks of them just begging and begging, I realized they were dying, I was dying, and I decided, you know what, let me just try this out. Let me write a song for them.
Let's talk about slope intercept. I don't mind if you interject, just don't disrespect. You say you got a question for me? Yes. What's Y equals...
That was the first time I think they really had a memorable and an enjoyable experience in class, and when it got to the very end, they all just exploded in applause, laughter, and I can still hear to this day the joy they had just based off the fact that 1, I listened to them, and 2, it was actually like a good song that taught them how to graph equations. So it was an amazing experience.
I've seen lots of teachers try to rap with their students. I've seen lots of teachers fail when it comes to trying to rap for their students. But we were hearing whispers around the school about, yeah, Mr. Queen wrote the song, the kids love it, the kids keep asking for more.
I did my homework, I wanna do a good job. So
I had a few students my second year that went from far below basic, which was the absolute bottom of the totem pole, all the way up to proficient and somewhere advanced. That was all motivation. It was all the emotion that they were holding back that they began to release because of music and just talking to them as students and not just teaching math, a subject.
these fractions right here, 1/2 and 1/8. I can compare any fraction, anytime, anywhere.
The music plays on your emotions in ways that it lowers walls. It gives you access to people in ways you would never think.
Next, I'd like to share with you all some of our proudest moments, but I'm not doing this to brag or boast. I'm actually very humble, and I'm only doing this because early on in my career, my lead teacher told me if I ever present to groups of educators, I have to establish credibility. So I'm going to do just that, but I'm going to do it expeditiously. Because, you know, like I said, I'm humble. So you are going to hear my auctioneer's voice, and I'm going to go through this as fast as I can. All right, here we go. I was nominated as Outstanding Math Teacher by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I got the Marina Bells in the New York Stock Exchange. I had numerous media outlets coming to my classroom. I had Channel 7, Channel 5, and we also had the Associated Press. Now we have over 1 million views on YouTube and TeacherTube combined. Let's get out of here and get into the important stuff. All right, let's talk about some quotes that some of the world's most popular and well-respected musicians have ever said about music. First up, we have Beethoven. Beethoven said, "Music is the electrical soil in which the spirit lives, thinks, and invents." If this is true, then we need to play music at school because we need our students to be creative, have novel ideas. We're getting them ready for jobs that aren't even created yet. So let's leverage music in the way that Beethoven says it can be utilized. Let's become inventive, create creative students simply by pressing play. Next up, we have Bob Marley. He said, "One good thing about music is that when it hits you, you feel no pain." Now, we know that school is a traumatic experience for some students, especially math. There's generational trauma behind math classes and math failures. So if when music hits you, you feel no pain, it's only right that we play some music to lower the stress and anxiety that students deal with behind issues they may have had in the past. Next up, Nietzsche said, without music, life is a mistake. All right, this was not a musician. This is a psychologist that said that. So if life is a mistake without music, imagine what school is. Last up, we have the king of pop. He says, to be musical starts with the blood dancing in your veins. Everything living has a rhythm. We walk with a cadence. We speak with a cadence. We have a heartbeat. We're rhythmic beings by nature. So it's only right and it only makes sense that music resonates with so many people. So let's go ahead and use it. Now, these quotes came from some musical experts, but what do educational experts have to say about music? Let's check out some more quotes. Now, Voss says that music lowers the affective filter. Music relaxes and lowers stress levels that inhibit learning. All right, think of our students as a box. When they come to school, that box needs to be open and we need to put information in it. That lid is the affective filter. We need to get it out of the way. And we can use music to do that. Next up, hip hop is our youth culture. Dr. Emden says rap is the easiest form of hip hop for our students to access. It's everywhere. Movies, TV shows, on the internet, YouTube, commercials. You can't go anywhere without hearing some type of rap or hip hop. So if this is the culture, let's go ahead and be culturally responsive and play some music that relates to the students, but is also educational. Next up, Boothby says music drives our emotion. People can successfully improve their mood and boost their overall happiness. Now, this works in both ways. You can improve your mood by listening to music, meaning if you're sad, play a song you like or a happy song, you can raise your spirits. But it also works the other way. If you're happy and hear a song that is associated with a sad moment in your life, it can take you down. So let's go ahead and use music effectively and efficiently with our students and create those emotions and those feelings that we want to see in our young people. Imagine you have a student that has struggled with multiplication for years, and then you bring a song on board that teaches them instantly something that resonates with them and something they enjoy, something like this.
8 and 0, 0, 8 times 0 equals 0. Any number times that 0, yeah, you know it equals 0. 8 and 1 is 8, I said 8 times 1 is 8. Yo, it's time to set it straight, I said 8 and 1 is 8. 8 and 2 is 16, 8 times 2 is 16. Shake it like a tambourine, 8 and 2 is 16.
Dr. Emden said rap is the easiest form of hip hop for our students to access. It's our youth culture, and we can use it in the classroom. Now, hip hop initially was thought to be a fad. It started off in New York. It was for the young hipsters, cool kids that were out on the streets, but it became a worldwide phenomenon.
So much so that studies were done on hip hop and how it's influenced music around the world. It was found that hip hop is the most influential genre. Scientists ran thousands of songs through a computer simulator, and what they found is that once hip hop hit the scene, every genre of music kind of took a pivot, sounds were changing, and they were beginning to follow the mode of hip hop in terms of the sound, the look, the beats, instrumentation. So what I'm going to do next is show you how we can use the elements of hip hop in our classroom. So let's first check them out. The original pillars of hip hop are rap, DJing, graffiti art, and breakdancing. Let's look at how we can use each one in our classroom. Now, breakdancing, we all know what this is, one of the craziest forms of dancing. And I'm going to go ahead and show how popular this became by showing one of my favorite memes, the breakdancing kitty. All right, now let's get back serious. Breakdancing can relate to TPR, total physical response. When we associate movements with things that we learn, they get embedded deep down in our schema and we can recall them as needed. If anyone remembers having to learn and memorize graphs, formulas, anything like that in math or science, chemistry class, if TPR was involved, those things would stick a little more. I remember my teachers in elementary school used to do it, but once I got in the middle and high school, it changed up. So let's keep this in place with our older students. Next up, we have graffiti art. Let me go ahead and get to my next meme, the graffiti kitty. And let's go ahead and jump into how this works in a school setting. Imagine doing error analysis problems that involve active learning within the classroom. So what you'll do is give all your students some chalk, go outside, get permission from administrator to go ahead and chalk up some areas on campus because you're going to assign students some problems. Make sure you give a handful of students problems that are done incorrectly so they can go outside and show that work. So students will get their work, they'll work it out, go outside, put it down on the concrete, on the wall or something like that, do a nice signature so everyone knows it's their work. And then you'll bring out your next group of students or maybe have a fellow teacher take their class out to analyze the work. They can look for the problems that are done wrong, put their signature next to it. Once they find it, correct those mistakes. It gives a great opportunity for collaboration amongst other teachers, get your students outside. It's overall a fun activity. This error analysis can be done in any type of classroom. You'll just adjust it to the type of work you're doing. Next up, DJing. What can we do to act like a DJ in class? Well, let's make a playlist. But before I get into the playlist, I gotta show you the DJing kitty. All right, now, 5 days in a week, 5 playlists that you need to create. Monday is going to be Motivational Monday. This is the playlist that has all the songs that are motivating, encouraging, high energy, because we know Monday is a drag for a lot of students. They have to wake up early again. They're tired. The weekend was so fun. They don't want to get back to work. So let's motivate them with an amazing playlist. Next up, Tuesday is Classical Tunes Tuesday. I love this because I get to introduce students to classical music. A lot of them don't like it at first, but research has shown how classical music affects the mind as well. We can also use this as an opportunity for students to hear a different type of music outside of what they typically listen to. And if you ever stop playing classical music because students are complaining, there will come a day when some students start to ask, what happened to the classical music on Tuesdays? So let's go ahead and try that one out. Next up, Way Out Wednesday. This is one of my favorites because this is an opportunity for me to play songs from around the world, expose students to different cultures, different sounds. And for anyone that's feeling froggish, you can speak in the accent that matches the region that the music you're playing is coming from. I used to do this a lot early on, especially when I played music from the Caribbean. The students were always locked in. They never stopped listening. They took notes for the entire lesson because it was so much fun to have the music going, have that accent going, and learn all at the same time. Next up, Throwback Thursday. These are the songs that my mama played when she made breakfast, and they're just embedded in my memory forever. This is always fun when you hear students say like, hey, I know that song, or they're singing some of the oldies along with the artist, or they'll say, my mom and dad listened to that song. I knew you were old. Jokes will start getting thrown around. This is overall just a fun, cool playlist because students are either introduced to some artists they hadn't heard of before and can go listen on their own, or you can have moments where you realize you like some of the same older artists. Last up, this is my absolute favorite, Friday. Freestyle Friday. This is where you have a playlist full of instrumentals where you all can just rap at the end of class, maybe recap the lessons with a freestyle or even something that's written. Freestyle Friday is just a loose, free-flowing time of the week where you play some instrumentals that students can enjoy. All right, I'm gonna do one more, or actually show one more example for you, all right? Let's look at rap. And no one would ever believe me if I said Dr. Seuss can sound cooler than it already does, right? Now, let me go ahead and front load this video with me letting everyone know that I am aware that Dr. Seuss is in the news, or was in the news, for some of his controversial imagery in his books. It's very unfortunate that, he was a part of, an era in history where people were looked at a certain kind of way, and he put that in his books. They weren't in all his books, and I'm thankful that the example I'm going to show does not include one of the books that was, highlighted for some of the negativity that he introduced to the world. This video is showing a parent rapping to Walk It In My Pocket to Amigo song. Dr. Seuss sounds so much cooler when you rap it. Let's check it out.
Walk it in my pocket, huh? Walk it in my pocket, okay? Walk it in my pocket, 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 in my pocket, walk it in my pocket. Did you ever have a feeling there's a basket in your basket, or a neural in your bureau, or was it in your closet? Sometimes I feel quite certain there's a jerkin in the curtain. Sometimes I have a feeling there's a zop behind the clock.
Early on, I got the question, does it work? Administrators, district personnel will come into my class wondering if this is a short-term fix for a long-term problem, or if it's really a efficient and effective teaching strategy. I'm going to show you all some data for a group of students I taught that were in my algebra readiness class, all right? There were about 3 classes, and the results were amazing. We took their state testing results after a year of using music, and this is what we found. 66% of the student scores increased. 53% of the student scores increased by 10 points or more. 35% of the students increased by at least 1 performance band. The 1 performance band portion was incredible because this means students went from like far below basic to basic, proficient. Some even went up to advanced. And we all know there's no way to teach 8 years worth of content in 1 school year. The students that went from far below basic to proficient and advanced were simply motivated. They felt a need to showcase that they actually knew the work. And that all came from us using music. Now, I'm going to show you in real time how music can affect a person. This is one of the cutest babies I've ever seen on the internet. And this example is going to show you how music affects a person instantly. This young baby's parents knew exactly what to do during their traumatic experience. Let's check it out.
Let's rage.
I'm capable of anything and everything. Make me your friend.
All right, let's look at how we can implement some of these strategies. We have 3 levels, all right? It's tiered into a novice implementation, intermediate, and advanced. So let's check out some novice tips first. You can play music as students turn in homework. You can change the culture and the thought around homework using music. Play music as a hook, get students hooked into a lesson, introduce it with a song that's related to it. You can play music to set the tone or environment in the classroom. If students are wild after recess or lunch, you can play some music to relax them. If they're lethargic in the morning, play some high energy stuff. Use music as a timer. You can use music during transitions. You can play songs as students come into class. You can use learning stations. Have a musical review station, educational songs that review concepts you taught. You can have a station for students that are ahead, and you can play some songs that are going to give them some information that is going to enrich the learning that they've already had, while you do some direct instruction with some students that need a little help. You can pause videos that have great content at specific moments and explain what's going on. You can use songs as a carrot or a reward, implement that into your system. You can use music simply as a brain break. Let students get up, dance, move around. You can do a closed reading activity, a fill in the blank activity with some vocabulary. Give students an opportunity to remember, practice, and learn some vocabulary words all through songs. All right, let's go ahead and check out a video that is going to highlight one of the examples I gave. The example where you can pause a video and explain some problems. I'm going to show part of our properties video and then explain how the distributive property can be taught.
I can't believe we're about to buy our first house.
Yeah, it seems like just yesterday we went on our first date.
That first date that Aunt Sally almost ruined. I mean, she was everywhere. She should have all private people. She was everywhere. I didn't believe it. I think it was the worst date ever. I
You know what? You don't even have to worry about it. She won't be here.
I'm all about my properties, my mathematical properties. I'm all about my property. Just like Monopoly, there's identity and associative. We got commutative and distributive. That's just the way it is. You got to learn the kids. First one up, and that's commutative. It goes A plus B equals B plus A. That's like 8 plus 3 equals 3 plus 8. Or 8 times 3 equals 3 times 8. Just put them in a different order. Not associative, can't wait, cause I'm all about my properties. My mathematical properties. That's right. I'm all about my property. Yes. Just like Monopoly, there's identity and associative. We got commutative and distributive. That's just the way it is. You got to learn it, kids. Next one up, and that's associative. It goes A plus the quantity, B plus C equals the quantity, A plus B plus C. All we did was move the parentheses. I need you to learn this conceptually. Now identity is easy. Class, please believe me. Example, 3 plus 0 equals 3z, and 3 times 1 equals 3z. I told you it was easy. From Mr. Q, you easy. I know identity, see? I'm all about my properties, my mathematical properties. That's right. I'm all about my properties, yes. Just like Monopoly, there's identity and associative. We got commutative and distributive. That's just the way it is. You got to learn the kids. Last one up, and that's distributive. It goes A times the quantity, B plus C equals A times B plus A times C. Or A times the quantity, B minus C equals A times B minus A times C. Here is an example of what you need to do.
Here you see, we talk about the distributive property in the song, and for students to understand how to solve a problem like this, they need a solid conceptual understanding of what the distributive property is. And as you can see from the screenshot, a teacher can pause and explain exactly what's going on, especially if students already enjoy this song and it resonates with the classroom. Now let's go ahead and jump into some of our intermediate strategies. You can have students learn a song and recite it for a grade. You can have students create their own problems related to the song. You can have students recreate math problems and make them fit into a song exactly the way it sounds in the song. Now, if students learn a song and recite it for a grade, you can make this an alternative assessment grade. It can or it can't, or it may not be equivalent to a standard assessment that you give, but allowing students to rap a song for a grade gets some buy-in, and it shows them that what they do is actually validated and respected in the classroom. Now, let's go ahead and check out another video of some students rapping. like -9 plus 5, -4, or 9 plus -5, +4. All I did was 9 minus 5, but I gave the answer the bigger number sign. The first example had a -9, the second example had a +9. -9 plus 5, -4, or 9 plus -5, +4. All I did was 9 minus 5, but I gave the answer the bigger number sign. The first example had a -9, the second example had a +9. Whole numbers in the opposites, and don't forget the zero. Please don't forget the zero. And these are positive and negative numbers on the number line. Oh yes, it's math time, y'all. Integers. Whole numbers in the opposites, and don't forget the zero. Please don't forget the zero. And these are positive and negative numbers on the number line. Oh yes, it's math time. I'm an integer. I'm a whole number line, number line. I'm an integer. Positive and negative is zero. Listen to your math superheroes. Every break it down, give me total satisfaction. Integer, the whole numbers can't be a fraction. It can't be a decimal. Just here to let you know. About integers, listen to professionals. You can multiply, you can multiply. Very, very simple rules that you must apply. Lastly, we'll check out some expert level strategies. Student songwriting, a student video project, or a close reading activity. Student songwriting is exactly what it is. Students can write a song about the content. The video project is cool because students can create a song, make a video, and then you can assign them into groups where they post a video, see who can get the most views. They're learning some marketing skills. They're learning how to network. These are all skills that they may need in jobs in the future. Everyone might not go into jobs where math, science, or STEM is, the top priority. They might get into entertainment, and this assignment allows them to practice some skills that they will need.
Now I'ma talk about math. You take that class to graduate fast. If you really want to pass, take math, cause it's the best class.
Grinding, dipping, diving under fire pressure. Rhyming in the lab like Dexter. Mix it in with the potions. Sometimes we make big explosions.
A through G requirements. A through G requirements. A through G requirements. A through G requirements. History, English, math, lab, foreign languages, visual performing arts, college prep, honor courses.
We back to school, get A's, okay, all day.
It's JoJo when it's my every year. My goal is valedictorian from my last year. That's right, it's time for me to go BTS. Like my classes and it's time for me to ace my test. Going for honor roll, 5th year in a row. You already know how this goes. New swag, new class. Oh, with the bells ringing, got a blast. Bye.
Lastly, a close reading activity, which is one of my favorites. You assign students a text, maybe a song, an educational song that has a lot of content in it that you really like. And then you create questions around that text where students are going to answer questions after they analyze the text. You give 2 rounds. In round 1, you give students sentence starters to go along with their questions. And as they're reading and answering questions, the answers are directly stated in the text. Now for round number 2, when students read, they're going to answer the questions based on what's implied in the text. You show them the questions without sentence starters. They have to read through the text and figure out answers based off what's implied in the text. All right, these level, the second reading is like depth of knowledge 3 or 4, where the first reading is like level 1 and 2. Now, if you have any questions about these things, because this was a rapid, fast-paced presentation, here's our contact information. Let me know, reach out to me, ask questions. I would love to help you implement some of these strategies. I hope to hear from you all soon. My name is LaMar Queen. Peace.
Thank you, Mr. QUE and the team at Music Notes. Now, don't forget to submit your questions to the presenters using the Q&A form. A list of all answers and questions will be emailed to the registered attendees and accessible from the festival's website. The resources mentioned in both today's workshops are also available to download from our website at usasciencefestival.org/IEW-resources. If you're interested in inspiring curiosity and wonder in STEM education, make sure you check out Impossible Science at Home. And we're available on all social medias and our YouTube channel. And there's also free lesson plans available at impossiblescience.com. For passionate STEM educators interested in applying to participate in the DoD STEM Ambassador program for 2021 and 2022 school year, visit this site for information. Thank you for joining us from the United States and around the globe. Coming up tomorrow, we'll hear from more inspiring educators and STEM professionals, including Jess Kessler from TGR Foundation, Roy Moore III from STEM Music, plus Spark of STEM demonstrations and special guests. Before we say goodbye for today, we'd like to thank our presenting partners, AstraZeneca, the Science Channel, and the U.S. Department of Defense DoD STEM for making this educational series possible. Mark your calendars for these upcoming events from the USA Science and Engineering Festival. Get ready for another Inspire Educators workshop series in November. Educators, plan a virtual field trip for your students at the XSTEM All Access Conference Series in September, hosted by Mr. Fascinate Justin Schaefer. And don't miss the SciFest Virtual Expo in October. Visit usasciencefestival.org for more information. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today on this workshop. And hopefully we inspired some curiosity and some questions in STEM education. And if you missed anything today, don't worry. It's going to be available at usasciencefestival.org. Now, from all of us here at the USA Science and Engineering Festival and Impossible Science, don't forget, stay curious, because the right question changes everything.